Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where...
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like...
Fucker! You fucker! Hey, fucker! Oh!
Huh? What the f...
Hello again, this is Bionic Slime. I'm your online voice for reviews of your choice, and thank you all for tuning in to another installment of BS Reviews. I just want to add that I really appreciate everyone who's been supporting my webpage and me doing these reviews, everyone who's giving those kind comments, the subscriptions, the ratings on my videos, my fellow movie reviewers that I've become friends with and subscribed to. You guys have helped me a lot. I just want to say I really appreciate it. You guys keep me going, and the more you give, the more I'm going to give back. So I just want to say thanks, and I hope for your continued support. Today I'll be reviewing the movie G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. I actually am not a really big G.I. Joe fan. I don't really know much about it outside of the two bad guys, Cobra Commander and Destro, who I like and hear a lot about. Other than that, I really don't know much about it. So that kind of helped prepare me for this movie. G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra is brought to you by Paramount Pictures, directed by Stephen Sommers, who also directed Deep Rising, The Mummy, and Van Helsing. It was written by Stuart Beattie and David Elliott, and it stars Christopher Eccleston as James McCullen, a.k.a. Destro, Byung-Hung Lee as Storm Shadow, Sienna Miller as the Baroness, Rachel Nichols as Shauna Scarlett O'Hara, Ray Park as Snake Eyes, Dennis Quaid as General Hawk, Channing Tatum as Duke, and Marlan Wayans as Ripcord. The plot of G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. Ripcord and Duke are military soldiers who are assigned to protect a very special suitcase that contains warheads that use nanobites, microscopic robots, to destroy anything in their path once unleashed. They are attacked and ambushed by a military organization led by the Baroness, a past girlfriend, apparently, of Duke, who's now working for the organization Cobra and tries to steal the missiles, but they are stopped by G.I. Joe, a mysterious military organization led by General Hawk, who has been tracking Cobra and has now been ordered to take care of the missiles and take them off Duke and Ripcord's hands. Unfortunately, now that they're involved and they find out that Baroness is involved in Cobra, they don't want to leave. They want to become part of G.I. Joe. And so they are trained to become an elite team of fighting soldiers to fight against Cobra, stop them from obtaining the nanobot missiles, and trying to save the world as G.I. Joe only can. Review the plot. As I said before, when I just said as G.I. Joe only can, that should kind of give you an indication of just kind of where this movie is going. And if you didn't really know where it was going to go by the commercials or the fact that they made a G.I. Joe movie, then you should really look at the director's name, because this director is quite infamous with his action explosion effects. He's sort of like Michael Bay, a little more well polished, and he's got a little bit more knack of storytelling than Michael Bay does. But let's be honest, there really isn't much of a story here. It's just basically the G.I. Joes fighting the Cobras. And in truth, that's all I frickin' wanted. I think this movie pretty much gave everyone exactly what it would be. Let's be honest, there really is not much depth to G.I. Joe. It's a war show. I mean, it's just a franchise about soldiers fighting other bad soldiers. That's basically what it is. It's all explosions and missiles and robots and weaponries and combat. That's all it really is. So anyone who's actually bitching, saying this is unfaithful, or this is incorrect, or this is disgracing G.I. Joe, then you're basically full of donkey shit, because there's really not much here to disgrace. I'm not saying G.I. Joe's a terrible thing, but it's just like with Transformers. You guys are ripping on this stuff, and it's completely unnecessary, because the content that these movies are displaying are pretty accurate in the sense that it's just pretty much action. And in that case, that is why I enjoyed this movie so much, because this plot really didn't concern me. In fact, the plot was just basically a subtext for the action. And I knew that when I was going into this movie, because I know that much about G.I. Joe, and I know that much about the director Stephen Sommers. It's an action film. However, what story they did have involved was quite interesting, particularly with the Baroness. I don't really know much about her, but she was displayed quite prominently here, and the fact that they kept her more involved, even more so than the primary villains of Cobra Commander and Destro, kind of made her even more interesting and made me more curious as to see where the story is going to go with her. But that's more leading up into the characters, which is what I'll be reviewing now. Reviewing the characters. Channing Tatum as Duke was okay. I've heard from my friends and people that they don't particularly care for him, and I don't really know him well, but after seeing this, I can kind of see why. He's alright. He's nothing grand. Marlan Wayans was actually pretty damn good in this movie. He wasn't obnoxious. He wasn't playing the prankster black guy, or the obvious black jokes or anything like that, and none of that racist stuff that he tends to overzealously exaggerate in like the scary movie films. He was pretty concrete here. He was good. He was structured. He wasn't too silly. He wasn't too stupid. I liked him in here. Dennis Quaid was in there kind of short as General Hawk, but he was good for what he needs. Ray Park and Byung-Hung Lee almost practically stole the frickin' show as Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, because their fight scenes and their history were so fascinating that every time you saw them get together, you just knew it's going to be good. I mean, I think they were one of the biggest highlights of the film, seeing these two badass ninjas go around. And I love Snake Eyes' weird-ass suit. It's very unusual, very different for a ninja. And I love the fact that Storm Shadow wears completely white and he's working on Cobra, where Ray Park is working for the Joes and he's wearing a completely, solid black suit. I really like that. By far, I think the most fascinating character, again, as I mentioned, was the Baroness. Sienna Miller is absolutely smoking ass hot as the Baroness. Not only did she make her gorgeous, but she also made her interesting. She made her fascinating. And I really don't know if this whole relationship that she has with Duke and this conflict between them is even in the show or in the comics or toys or whatever, but I don't really care if it was or wasn't, because the point is I'm reviewing this on the basis on whether or not these characters were doing a good job of performing, and in this case they did, because I was genuinely interested to find out about the relationship. It may not have been accurate, but it was damn well interesting to watch. At least I thought so. There's a lot of other surprised actors in here that don't really get enough credit. Crystal Eccleston, who I enjoyed in Heroes, was good as Destro. So there's a lot of good, solid performances from everyone. Rachel Nichols was good. A lot of good guys in here. Review the music and cinematography. Cinematography was ridiculous because of the constant scenes that are changing in the action sequences, but in that case it ends up looking beautiful because the explosions and shit flying around, it's just absolutely crazy. This movie is literally non-stop action. Just like Transformers and Fallen, it's boom, 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 boom. Every minute something big, flaming, metallic, or sharp, or explosive is flying at your skull at like 500 miles an hour. It's ridiculous how constantly fast this movie's going. One of the highlights of the movie, I think, was the excellent scene where the accelerator suits were being worn by Duke and Ripcord as they're blowing way through Paris with cars exploding. You got the Baroness's car flipping cars over like pancakes. You got the Paris tower collapsing. So many crazy explosions just going on. It's really freaking cool. Music was okay. Really nothing to brag about. It was just kind of so-so. I mean, again, this movie was all on the action. It was intense, frequent, fast, and just very hectic, and I really much enjoyed that. Flaws about the film? As I said before, I don't really know much about G.I. Joe. My little knowledge pretty much pertains just to the main villains because of their very iconic appearances. Destro and Cobra Commander and Baroness are all very visually appealing, or recognizable, I should say. And while they did a great job making Baroness interesting and an effective villain with a great actress, the thing that pissed me off the most is the only thing I am really familiar with this series, is the one thing they screwed up the most. I'm going to save you guys some trouble just so you're prepared for this, but the main thing that pissed me off was that when they revealed how the Cobra Commander would look, I was severely disappointed because he's had different appearances over the years, but that was not frickin' Cobra Commander. It's very disappointing to me. And I don't even care for G.I. Joe that much. So that tells you something. Also, the use of Destro didn't even really come up towards the end. It was all towards the end. And while this is sort of a prequel thing, setting up the Cobra Rise, it makes me kind of hesitant to want to see if there's anything future if you're not going to bother, improving on the looks that you already cocked up with these guys. I mean, bottom line with this movie, it's constant action. You can't really talk about it in any other format. And I knew that, and it was fine. And I think all these whiny bitches should shut their shit-eating mouth about how they think this is supposed to be some sort of unholy piece of garbage. It's a freaking action movie. You guys knew that when you're coming in when you're seeing G.I. Joe or this director's movies. You know, I just get fed up with that, because while I do admit I was severely pissed off, the Cobra Commander Destro's appearances were severely ruined, I was totally blown away by the excellent explosions and fight scenes. It's a comic book movie with loads with science fiction weaponry and high-tech future gadgets, which is something that me as a geek absolutely loves. I totally adored Sienna Miller as the Baroness. Get some good performances from Ray Park and Hyung Hung Lee as Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. You got some really good stuff going around. I really don't think this movie's as bad as everyone's cranking it up to be. Bottom line, I give G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra a very, very positive 3 stars out of 5. Well, that's all for now. Thank you all for listening. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews, and bye for now.